Itel, since their inception, have been known for making budget, entry-level smartphones. All their previous smartphones up until now have always been below 100,000 naira. Now, to keep their phones budget and affordable, they've always had to cut corners and make sacrifices. But with the S23 Plus, it does seem like they cut less corners and made less sacrifices. Let me explain. When I handed this phone to my brother, my sister, my mom, and even my dad, they all said the same thing. It's so sleek. And I'm sure you'd agree with that too. The curve on the screen and on the back, its shiny rails, its thin sides, its soft touch back, its lightweight feel, it screams premium. But with all that said, I do have some personal gripes. First, the camera module. We've seen maybe 4 or 5 phones come out this year with this same iPhone-inspired camera module, to the point where it now feels kinda generic. To me anyway. There is no Itel branding on the rear, which is fine, but instead, they went with Super. This color I got has this rainbow effect, which I actually really like. Not sure what it's called, but it looks like light blue, and there's also a dark blue color as well. So for me, design is a bit of a mixed bag. I love its sleekness and feel in hand, but I think the camera module makes it look a bit generic. But again, design is preferential, so do let me know what you think in the comments. In terms of buttons and ports, I can confirm that there are surprises. Good and not so good surprises. To the right, we have the power button and the volume rockers. The good surprise is now we get an under-display fingerprint reader. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there is no other phone at this price point with this feature. And it also works well. You place your finger on the sensor, it shines a light on your finger and reads your fingerprint, then unlocks it. It takes about 1 second to work, which is okay. One not so good surprise is the absence of the headphone jack. So there is no headphone jack on the S23 Plus. In the box, they do give you wired earphones, but it's Type-C earphones. On the bottom, there's a downward fire-in speaker. It's the only speaker here, and it sounds very fine. Still at the bottom, there's the Type-C port for charging, and next to it, a microphone. My main SIM card is in here. I did make a couple calls with it, and no one complained about not hearing me. So that's that. There's one more surprise at the bottom of the phone. The tray at the bottom can only take 2 nano SIM cards, so you can't use an SD card with the S23 Plus. Which might sound bad, but the phone does come with 256 gigabytes of storage, so do you really need it? My favorite part of this phone is probably its display. The hole punch cutout, its really small bezels, the curved screen, its 1080p resolution, the fact that it's an AMOLED display, Gorilla Glass 5 protection. These are very impressive display specs for a phone at this price. And in terms of its actual display quality, it's also very fine. Colors are great, it's detailed enough. I did watch a bunch of YouTube videos on it. The highest resolution it did support was 1080p, which is very fine for most people. And yeah, it looked really good. The only downside with the display is its refresh rate. It's 60 Hz. It would have been nice to have at least 90, but I don't think the average user would care that much about having a 25% smoother display. Plus, in the display settings under Ultra Touch, you can adjust the swipe speed and motion speed. It has a max peak brightness of 500 nits, which is decent, but you would struggle to use it under direct sunlight. The display is solid and arguably the best you would find for this price point, mainly because of that curved screen. So design's good, the display's even better. What about performance? Did we get an upgrade? Technically, yes. This is using the Unisoc Tiger T616 processor. It's a slightly better chip than what was on the regular S23, and I remember I did say with that phone, it was my smoothest experience with an Itel phone. So this is that, but slightly better. That's to say, its performance wouldn't blow you away, but it would perform decently. If you're a serious gamer or heavy user, this would leave you wanting more. And the same goes with multitasking. Even with up to 8 GB of RAM, this phone isn't a multitasking beast. If you're using and switching between 2 to 3 apps, or even 4, this phone would handle it well. But if you're doing more apps or even heavier apps like heavy games, it would start to struggle. Cameras are interesting. We have what looks like a triple camera setup, but really it's just one camera. That camera is a 50 megapixel wide camera. And then on the front, there's a 32 megapixel selfie camera. In the right lighting conditions, you can get some good looking, color accurate, solid 7 out of 10 photos. And the same goes for the selfie camera. I really liked how well the photos came out. You might have to watch the videos in a higher resolution to actually see how good it is, because I think they look pretty good. The only issue I might have is with detail. When you zoom in, it starts to look a bit soft. Also, if you take pictures in bad lighting conditions, it doesn't do so well. So get yourself a good light source, face the sun, and this turns into a solid camera. For video, it shoots max at 1080p, and it's kind of the same story with photos. Just find good lighting and you get decent results. Impressively, there's an ultra steady mode which shoots also at 1080p, meaning you don't lack detail to get stabilization. I like that. Battery life is the only major thing left to talk about. And this is one area where Itel phones in the past and generally budget phones excel in. And that's the case here as well. This comes with a 5000 mAh battery and from my testing, very decent battery life. About 30 minutes of gaming took 7% of the battery, which brings it to roughly 7 hours of battery life if you're just gaming. And of course, when you're not gaming, it would last even longer. So about a full day of battery life. What about charging? Well, the S23 Plus supports up to 18 watts of wired fast charging. But, surprise, surprise, it doesn't come with the 18-watt charging brick, or any brick even. In the box, you only get the cable. RIP charging brick. Here are some things we haven't touched on yet. It's running on Itel's OS version 13, based on Android 13. There's also a new GPT AI assistant called Aviana. You can find that in the settings and then set it up. I'm not the biggest fan of virtual assistants, but this is still cool to see. There was also some talk about a dynamic bar feature, which seems to be a future feature because I couldn't find it here. But I hope that they do add that with a software update. There's also an impressive 36 months warranty for the S23 Plus and an additional 6 months of free screen repair. There's actually a lot of stuff to like here. The design, the display especially, battery life, the cameras, they are pretty decent. Performance is okay, but overall, a very solid phone. For sure, the best Itel phone. I think it's a step in the right direction. In fact, a bunch of steps in the right direction. But yeah, that's my review of the Itel S23 Plus. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you when you see me.